Hey BFFs, I want to personally invite you to BeFreeInnerCircle.com, your community for real sisterhood where women are showing up and doing the work. Whether you're still trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, or you need accountability to keep pushing forward to reach your goals, the Be Free Inner Circle is the community for you. You can expect curated content that will support you on becoming the best version of yourself, live office hours and Q&A sessions where we chat about things like overcoming self-doubt, building your confidence, practicing self-care without guilt, and so much more. Virtual live events from book clubs and workshops with guest speakers, and a supportive and active community of women that will encourage you, hold you accountable, cheer you on, and give you honest feedback and advice. It's the perfect place to be for women who are ready to show up, flourish, and be free. Join today at BeFreeInnerCircle.com. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Girl Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, where I'm going to inspire and motivate you to show up for yourself. Before we get into the show, I just want to take a moment to say how deeply grateful I am for every single member of the Be Free family who I affectionately call my BFFs and my Girl Be Free listeners. I am just blown away by the amount of people who are listening to the podcast and then applying what I'm sharing to their life. And then you're sharing that with me. It warms my heart. It really, really does. And so I'm really grateful. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you for allowing me to be in your ears week after week, sharing what's working for me. And then you're taking what resonates with you and applying it to your own life. I am deeply grateful. So please continue to share, your key takeaways from the episode. Make sure you connect with me here or connect with me on Instagram and share that with me. A lot of you started sharing where you are listening from, and I'm just going to share a few because I asked on Instagram. Well, I asked on a podcast last week for you guys to share where you are listening from and then where you follow me from on Instagram. And I received several messages. So a young lady reached out and told me she's listening from London. So hey girl, hey. And then we have Nairobi, Connecticut, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York. I mean, I'm just blown away that people worldwide are connected with the company, the brand, and I'm just thankful for every single person. So I just want to take a moment to show my gratitude because I believe it's very important. All right. Next, what I'm loving this week. So I recently discovered this church called Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was scrolling through IG stories and started following someone on there, and then she was sharing this pastor's messages, and then someone else was sharing it, and I felt like I just kept seeing it everywhere. So I'm like, let me go check out what this pastor is preaching about, and his name is Pastor Mike Todd, and he's doing this series called Crazy Faith. And y'all, when I tell you this sermon or this series of sermons, if you will, has really resonated with me on a whole different level. He reminds me a lot of my pastor. And so I've been all in, and there's been certain messages that I've been listening to over and over again because this is exactly what I needed in my life in this very moment. I believe I shared on a recent episode, or maybe I was talking to a friend, but this year for me is a spiritual journey. And so finding messages that really resonate with where I'm at feels really good to my soul. So I will link to his YouTube channel because that's where I've been watching the messages. And then you can check it out for yourself. And if you like it, let me know. All right. So today I want to talk about what my version 1 looked like before my life started changing and moving upward. Okay. And the reason why I want to have this conversation is because oftentimes people will see where you're at now and think that you have it all together and everything just works out for you, yada, yada, yada. But that's not the case. That's not the case for me at all. And I always tell people, please do not just look at me and think that I do have it all together because I don't. Everything that I'm sharing on the podcast, when you're watching me on IG stories, you're attending my events, all that jazz, I am speaking from experience and I'm teaching you what I know was working for me. I haven't always been in the space that I'm in today. I'm in a beautiful space today, but I haven't always been here, right? And so I want to talk about what my life looked like pre Be Free Project, pre being in my purpose, pre doing the inner work, and pre therapy, okay? And just so you know, I was very lost. Yes, I had my husband, I had the kids. At that time, I was working full time for corporate. I had the house, I had all of the stuff that society says we should have. But internally, I was like missing something. I felt empty. Like, what is it? And I felt now I can look back, there were periods of my life when I was depressed. Um, Felt like my life wasn't going in any kind of direction whatsoever. And I was just going through the motions, just doing the same routine day in and day out. And I was consuming a lot of stuff that wasn't adding value to my life. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Even though I have two college degrees, I have a bachelor's in information systems and a master's in marketing communications, that meant nothing, right? And to be honest with you, I went back to get my master's to prove to myself that I was smart. I know that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but that is, at the end of the day, that's what I went back to school for. Yes, I have the degree, but I went about getting it for the wrong reasons versus doing the inner work and figuring out, well, what is it that I truly wanted? And I went back to school because I didn't know what else to do. So it's like, oh, let me go back to school and get more education and then maybe I'll figure it out. That was not the right thing to do. And I have student loan debt to remind me of that for sure. And so, pre all the great things that are happening now, again, I was lost in my life. I felt I was at that time too, I was carrying a lot of emotional baggage from my childhood that I talk about on the podcast a lot, with my mother wounds and feeling, guilty, codependent in relationships, not having healthy boundaries, not even knowing my worth, never feeling good enough, and just feeling like I was always doing something wrong or something was wrong with me because, if my mother and my father would walk away from raising their child, then surely anyone else that I was connected to would do the same. And so, as you can see, my emotions, my mind, my thoughts, all of that was all over the place. But yet, if you looked at me, and I talk about this all the time, outwardly, it would appear that I had it all together. And I see people doing this every single day, masking their pain, suppressing their pain, not dealing with the things that have broken them or things that they have experienced in their childhood, and they mask it away, they cover it up. But the thing is, and I shared this on Facebook recently, that pain, all of that you're suppressing is still there, and it'll come out, excuse me, in other ways if you don't do the healing work. I was broken and I just felt like my life had no direction. And yes, I was happy with my husband and I was happy with my children at the time. I was working a job, making good money, and we had our house and all that jazz. So that all felt good. But if you were to ask me, was I happy from the inside out? I couldn't honestly say yes or give you a yes to that question. A couple of other things is that I struggled with my own insecurities. So, again, not feeling good enough. In friendships, I always wanted to avoid conflicts. So, you would find me people pleasing a lot just to make sure that everybody else was comfortable. And I probably did that more so than I should have because it wasn't honoring myself. When you're always giving and giving to other people, that means your needs constantly get put on the back burner, and sometimes you don't know what you want because you're so busy helping everybody else accomplish X, Y, and Z. All right. I find myself people pleasing, and not just, or I found myself, so because past tense now, I found myself people pleasing because I didn't want anyone to walk away from me. So I would hold on to people really tightly, hold on to relationships to avoid confrontation and conflict, and then didn't want that feeling of being alone based on my wounds from my childhood. Also, in my marriage, when it comes to struggling with insecurities, I was not as confident as I am today. And so I struggled with owning my voice and speaking how I feel because I felt like, again, it's easier for me to keep everything bottled up inside and process on my own versus communicating with someone else. I learned in therapy that that is not good, and I've grown so much in that space. And then lastly, I want to point out I was insecure in my parenting, right? So I was always questioning if I was repeating what my mother had did or didn't do. So I would love on my children extra hard and always competing in my mind to be better, even though there was no one for me to compete with. And then also I wanted my children to know that I would never leave them. And so I just did a lot of things that I feel like, I could have backed off a little bit, almost like smothering a little bit. And so these are just a couple of things that I wanted to point out, but I can go on and on. And so when I look back at my version one, the old Siobhan was very insecure. She was shy. She lacked confidence. She wasn't a risk taker. She was immature in a lot of ways. She was wounded, broken, and had a lot of emotional and mental baggage that she was carrying. One thing that I do want to really point out is that the old me was very unfulfilled, right? Because I was looking for fulfillment in stuff and people, not knowing that the fulfillment that I needed comes from within. And the old me was not healed, which meant I was not growing, right? It meant that I wasn't evolving and that I was very stagnant and stuck, and it was hard for me to move forward because of everything that I was holding on to. I'm just breaking down the version one of myself, just so you can get a clear picture of who I was before, who I am now, and then the woman that I am becoming. I'm sharing this because I want people to know what my life looked like prior to Be Free Project and all the amazing things that you may see now, right? And this new version of myself, it's not an overnight process. I've been doing this work for years. I've been on my self-care, self-healing, self-discovery, personal growth journey for years, and I will forever be on this journey because I'm always becoming a better version of myself. And so I work very hard every single day to become a better version of myself. And this work is ongoing, and I've accepted it just as that. And so I am constantly working on becoming a better version of myself than I was the prior day before. So when I talk about healing the mother wounds, I've done it. And I continue to do it. And I created a whole guidebook, a digital guidebook around it called the Motherless Child Guidebook, a sacred space for healing your mother wounds, because I know what it feels like to have a toxic relationship with your mother. I know what the mother wounds are and how they show up in other relationships. I know what it feels like to have that inner child yearn to be with her mother. And then I know what it feels like to change your story and create something new. And that's what the Motherless Child Guidebook, a sacred space for healing your mother wounds, is all about. Everything that I just shared. If you want to know more about that, I'll drop the link for you in the show notes. But the website is themotherlesschild.com, and you can check it out. Also, when I think about purpose, I spent a lot of time on my journey to discover what has always been in me, which is to be a light and empower others to be free. And people who knew me way back in high school, people who knew me in my 20s, college, all that jazz, one thing that I'm sure everyone can say that they're not surprised by what I'm doing today. My purpose has always been in me. I wasn't always able to identify with it because there was so much stuff covering it up. As I've talked about on previous episodes, I had to heal first from my childhood pain. I had to answer a lot of questions and reflect and tap within to get to where I'm at today. And a lot of those questions you can find in a Free Your Mind journal, which are prompts that I had to ask myself. One of the questions that I had to answer, and it wasn't an easy question, but it was, who do you need to forgive and why? So when you acknowledge the person in your life that you need to forgive, and that can even be yourself, and why, you got to really deal with that. And it's not just, oh, let me answer this question and move on to the next. You got to really sit with that. And also when I wrote down, what makes my heart sing, being in my purpose makes my heart sing. And my purpose is to empower others to be free, to be a light. And my gifts are connecting and motivating and inspiring and empowering others. Like, those are my gifts. Like, I'm really good at those things and holding people accountable. And so once I discovered what my gifts were and realized what my purpose was, it was on and popping. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this, right? I can really do something with this. And then when I talk about showing up for yourself, I commit every single day to taking one little step, whatever that looks like. So I shared on Instagram last week how I was starting back working out again, and I was just taking it one day at a time. That's it, one day at a time. And with me setting that intention, every day I was encouraged to work out, like, or not encouraged, I was motivated to work out. And last week I ended up working out 5 days, which is amazing. And then I set that same intention for this week. I said, you know what? I'm taking it one day at a time. And today I'm going to the gym to work out. So I kicked off today, going to the gym. And I'm sharing that to say all you have to do is make a commitment with yourself. You set an intention and you take one small step that feels right for you. So maybe it's not working out for you. Maybe it's, finally starting that blog. And by starting that blog, you start writing your thoughts on paper first. And then you type up those thoughts on a Word document. Then you find a platform that you want to host your blog. And then you copy and paste that content from that Word document to the blog post. You click publish, and now you have your work out in the world. Everything is just one little step forward, but you just have to take the step. And I am no longer the old version of myself. And what I really want to kind of point out is that I don't even recognize the old me. Like when I go back and I read like my journals, like obviously it was me writing it, but I don't recognize that person. That person pre Be Free Project, pre therapy, she was lost. She had no idea what she wanted for her life. And now I'm so crystal clear on who I am. I'm so clear on what I desire, the legacy that I'm building for my children. I know what Be Free Project is all about, which is community and sisterhood. And I'm really passionate about the work that I'm doing, empowering women to be free, to flourish and feel fulfilled. Like I'm really confident in that. And even on days when I question, like, man, I wonder, or I say, this is really hard. This is hard work. Like clockwork, God sends in a reminder, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And what's for you will not pass you by. And that is confirmation that I need just to keep going. And I love this woman that I am today. I love all of the work, even though there has been times, lots of times, that it has been very difficult, right? And even this year, I've said it over and over again, my year of growth and healing. This has been probably one of the most challenging years of my life, I feel like. And that's not a bad thing. That means that I'm learning so much about myself and that I'm so aware that I am forced to do something with what I'm aware of. And you can be in this space of, being aware of what you want, but then it's also uncomfortable because you're entering in new territory and you're entering into a new space, right? You're leveling up. And that can be a very uncomfortable space. And when you become so self-aware and you're so crystal clear that you're in your purpose and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, that's not easy work. I feel like it may even be harder because now that you got to continue to show up and you can't let up. And even when it gets uncomfortable, you got to take a moment to let it all sit and then get back in the game. And that's where I'm at right now. I am being stretched, but it's in a good way because my glow up season is coming. I'm going to keep putting that out there because I need everybody to know. Like 2020 and beyond will be my glow up season. And y'all are going to watch everything that I've manifested, everything that is written down in my journal. All of that stuff that I desire for my life is going to come to pass and it's going to be better than I ever could have thought. So amazing, right? And again, I love the woman that I am today. And I love the journey that I've been on. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love the challenges because they're building my character. They're making me better. They're shaping me into this better version of myself so that when I speak to women, whether I'm speaking at a conference or an event, or I'm speaking here on the podcast, or you catch me on social media or whatever, I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from integrity. I'm speaking because I'm doing the work and then teaching other women how to do the same. That's amazing. That is amazing. And I hope that, me showing up every single week, and I know I am, I'm not even going to hope. I know that every single person that listens to this podcast week after week after week, at some point you're going to do something. You are. I believe that. So let me tell you about another part of the old me, right? I used to consume a lot of gossip blogs. Like back in the day when it was Concrete Loop and Nicole Bitchy and so many others. Like I went from one site to the next site to the next site, consuming all of that. And this is when I was working in corporate America. But yes, just all of the gossip. So I knew it all. I lost myself in reading so many fiction books. And not that there's anything wrong with fiction books, but I got lost in other people's stories without even knowing my own story. And at that time, I also lacked purpose, or I didn't feel like I had a purpose at all. And I was just being like everybody else, everyone else. I was being like them, right? And I got to a point where I had to make a decision that if I wanted more for my life, right? If I wanted to become more than what was happening on the gossip blogs and reading that content and getting carried away in these stories and being like everybody else, gossiping about people at work and, complaining about my life and blaming other people for where I was at, yada, yada, yada. I could stay in that space, or I could decide that I wanted something different. And there was something that clicked in my mind and said, Siobhan, you need more. There is more for your life than this. And I decided, the key word here, y'all, is I decided. I decided that I wanted more, and I deserved more for my life. And all I was going to do was take it one step at a time. So my first step was going to therapy. After therapy, I cut all my hair off. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened in between, but every single day, I just committed to doing something that would make me grow on a personal level. And so people always want to know, what did that look like? How did you do the work? What is the work? What are you talking about? So I am going to give you a list. So I hope you have your notebooks out so you can write some of these things down. But I'm going to give you a list of what I did to continue to grow personally, so that each version of myself is getting better and better. And as I'm learning more and as I'm growing, I'm adding more things into the mix. I do not do all of these things every single day, but I have a list that I can pull from to apply to my life. So, one of the first things that I did is I started reading a lot of books. If y'all been following for a while, y'all know way back in 2014, I committed to doing 52 books, a 52 books in a year challenge, where every week I was reading a new self-help or business related book. But I read a lot, and that challenge helped me so much, and I still continue to read so much all the time. I feel like right now I'm probably reading like 3 or 4 books, but I read a lot of books. So when you want to know what is the work, or what do you put in, or how do you change your life and all that jazz, you start reading. You start reading books, you read articles, anything that's going to better you. I'm going to share my Amazon link. I have a book list of books that I've read or books that I plan to read, and I'm going to drop that link. So if you're ever looking for a book to read, you can check this list out and then share the link with friends. I do make a small little commission for anyone who purchases a book through my Amazon shop link. Next, I removed negative energy, and that was including myself. Right? So when it came to, remember how I said I was so consumed with reading the gossip blogs and all that jazz? When I was working, and I'm like, I think, did I start therapy? Yes, I started therapy while I was working. And that's when I started wanting more for my life too, around that time. Instead of looking at gossip blogs all day when I could, I gave myself a set time that I would check them out, right? So I didn't cut them off all completely because I enjoyed what I was reading, but I cut it out so I wasn't consuming so much. I also was very mindful of, and I still am, mindful of who I am following on social, right? So I don't follow the news. I don't follow anyone that's negative. I'm very conscious of what I allow in my space, and then also including me. And what I mean by that is that my negative thoughts. So when I notice that my thoughts are going left, I will fix that real quick and not allow myself to go down some type of rabbit hole, if you will, with negativity, because sometimes our own thoughts can be worse than what anybody else would ever say to us. And if you don't check your thoughts, I feel like I may have done an episode on that, but if you don't check your thoughts, you can consume so much negativity just in your own mind. I also had to be honest with myself versus constantly feeding myself lies, right? And so, what I mean by that is that sometimes you can tell yourself certain things and make yourself believe it, but it's not actually true. I had to be honest with myself about what I wanted, who I was, where I was in my life, and really honor, the truth and act on it versus making myself believe that everything was fine when it really wasn't. I also learned to sit in silence, meditate, and just quiet time with myself and really appreciate those moments. Doing the work is also being mindful of my actions and how I speak to myself and others. So, the same thing with your thoughts, you got to be very careful with the words that come out of your mouth. And I most recently realized this, and I'm saying it out loud because I want other people to hold me accountable. So I have a habit of not being able to accept compliments about my work. No more am I doing that. So when someone compliments my work, thank you very much, and that's it. And so I'm working on that right now is, when someone compliments me or my work, thank you. That's all I have to say is thank you. I don't have to put my work down or minimize my work to make somebody else feel comfortable. Like that's so not necessary. So you have to be very conscious about the words that come out of your mouth and what you say. And words are powerful. So be mindful of how you talk to yourself, how you talk about yourself to other people, how you talk about other people. Like everything should be positive. And if you find yourself constantly gossiping and being negative, self-sabotaging yourself, talking bad about yourself, then that's some inner work that you have to do. Next is that I surround myself with other people who are doing the work. People that inspire me, they motivate me, they encourage me. Like I have to be around other people that are thriving and flourishing in their life. I come alive when I'm around other people that I admire. And so I am intentional about my circles of the people that I'm around day in and day out to make sure that I can feed off of their energy just as well as they can feed off of mine. Practicing gratitude is doing the work. Every day, I am constantly putting out into the world what I'm grateful for. And that can be something big, something small. And then I'm also, as y'all heard on another episode, is that I'm constantly welcoming in beautiful surprises. I'm going to have a magical day full of beautiful surprises. And I say that affirmation often. Also, abundance flows into my life in surprising and miraculous ways every day. Constantly practicing gratitude, speaking positive affirmations, all of that is doing the work for me. Next is I invest in personal growth. Like I am so that's everything. That personal growth is my highest value. And so I invest in coaching. I've been working with a coach now for several months. I invest in classes. I invest in courses and workshops. I attend events. I invest in books. Anything that's going to help me be better, I'm investing in it because my goal is always personal growth. How can I get better? And what does that look like? And so there's always things that I'm investing in to become the best version of myself. Next is I journal a lot. I journal a lot. I do a lot of reflection, a lot of getting connected with self. So much so that even lately I've noticed that I had to go inward a lot. And that meant me kind of pulling back a little bit and always being available and accessible to others and making sure that I'm available and accessible to myself first. And so I've been doing a lot of inner work, going inward because again, 2019, my year of growth and healing. So when I cross over and go into 2020, I'm going to have done so much work that, man, glow up season is upon me. All right, next is that I hold myself accountable. I'm really good at I'm one of those people when it comes to my work specifically, I'm definitely self-motivated. I'm definitely good at holding myself accountable. So if I say I'm going to do something and I say it out loud, best believe it's going to get done. Obviously, I have people in my corner to hold me accountable as well, but accountability is everything. And I'm going to be doing an episode really soon about accountability and the power of that. I practice self-care. And my friend Tara has helped me a lot with this, but I practice self care and not just on the hygiene related stuff when it comes to mani and pedis, but I do a lot of self care when it comes to emotional, mental, spiritual wholeness, the holistic self, if you will. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with mani and pedis, but my self care is within. So, a lot of mental wellness, of really taking care of my inner self, and that is my self care. And I've been doing a lot of that. Burning sage, a lot of crystals that I use for energy work, Reiki. Like there's so many things that I've been doing that's outside of the traditional stuff that people do. Of course, therapy is me doing the work, going to therapy. And like I'm not in therapy now, but I do go on an as needed basis. Also, with my coach, we do a lot of life coaching as well. So that has been helpful. Next is I show myself more grace and compassion, and I allow myself to go at my own pace. There was a time that I was just rushing, 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 trying to get all the things done because I wanted my life to change so quickly. But oftentimes, when I look back, I'm like, a lot of the things that I wanted to happen so quickly, I wasn't even ready for. You know? And so now I'm giving myself more compassion. I'm being gentle with myself, allowing myself to go at my own pace and know that that is perfectly okay. And as I said earlier, what's for me is for me and it will not pass me by. So, those are just some things that I think about when it comes to doing the work. I mean, I obviously could go on and on and on, but right now that's a good list, I feel like, that you can kind of reflect on and see what are you going to apply. And you can kind of go from there. So, your action step for this week is to take one step forward. That's it. Whatever it is going to help you become a better version of yourself, just take a step. That's it. And I would love for you to share with me on the gram, what step are you going to take? We have a few months left in the year, and this is not to put pressure on you or anything like that, but what steps are you going to take so that when you go into a new year, your life is starting to look different? I mean, I'm so glad that we're having this challenge in the Be Free Inner Circle. It's the 100-day challenge where we are committing to complete one thing by the end of the year. I've been meditating, and I've meditated every single day for over 20 days, and that feels so amazing, so amazing. And so I encourage you to do the same. And, you can definitely join us in the Be Free Inner Circle. You're always welcome. You can start this challenge at any time. But just commit to something, and the Be Free Inner Circle is your community for real sisterhood, where women are showing up and doing the work. And so to learn more, to watch a behind the scenes video, just go to BeFreeInnerCircle.com. So now I want to share a few announcements with you. The next Be Free meetup is going to be October 19th. This is my in-person event where I gather women together to make meaningful, genuine connections and have inspiring conversations that you're not having on a day-to-day basis. Our theme, part 2, is sisterhood and friendships. So we're going to keep that conversation going. It was so amazing last month with so many women sharing like the ups and downs of friendship, what sisterhood looks like to them, how they can be a better friend, and so forth. And then our guest caterer is Shani's Cakes Lunchbox. And so I'm excited that she's going to be our featured caterer for the month. Then we have some giveaways and all that jazz. So make sure if you're in the area, you're flying out, driving up to see us, you can get your ticket at BeFreeMeetup.eventbrite.com. That link also will be in the show notes. Next, I want to let you know that I'm about to introduce something new to the community here. I'm starting a series called Chasing Free, and if you've been following me for a long time, I used to do these series on my blog where I would do a series of interviews with women who are doing amazing things in their life, period. And so now I'm bringing that series to the blog. And so I'm going to be interviewing women who are doing the work and showing up for themselves. And not just influencers that we see all the time, but also everyday women who are showing up in their lives and chasing free and defining what being free looks like for them. And so there's going to be a good mix of people who you may know on the blogs and the websites and all that jazz, but then everyday women who may not necessarily have a business yet or have a blog or a podcast, but they're showing up in their own life, and we're going to hear from them as well. So stay tuned. I'm starting my interviews this week, I'm bringing you some amazing women that you're going to be really excited to hear. So that's going to be the Chasing Free series. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. And until next time, girl, be free.
My name is Ayandi Alexander, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I joined the Be Free Inner Circle at a time in my life when I was basically stuck, depressed, had no sense of direction. The ladies in the Be Free Inner Circle, they're amazing, they're warm, they genuinely care about your growth and progress. They're always there to support you. Our wonderful host, Siobhan, she always have such valuable information to impart on us, a challenge. There's always information if you have a question that she can lead, some resources that she can lead you to that is going to help, and she's always willing and quick to help us. Her warm personality, of course, is a bonus, and I will encourage anyone to join the Be Free Inner Circle.